Hi friends, you are welcome in Literature Simply. Simple way to learn literature and language. Friends, we are making a series on the history of English literature, and in the last tutorial we talked about Anglo-Saxon period in English literature. Then we talked about Anglo-Norman period in English literature. Now in this video we are going to talk about a new age in the history of English literature. We are going to discuss Chaucerian age in the history of English literature, or the Age of Chaucer. So friends, let me convey you the outline of this tutorial. First we will talk about the background of this Age of Chaucer. Then we will talk about Geoffrey Chaucer and his works. The third point will be Contemporaries of Geoffrey Chaucer, and at the last, or in the fourth point, I will provide you the chronological events happened in this particular period, events from history and events from literature. So friends, let's get started. First, let's talk about the historical background of this Age of Chaucer. Generally, the timeline of Age of Chaucer is considered from 1350 to 1400. There was a upheaval in this period, or in this Age of Chaucer. We found that in 1338 the 100 Years' War began, and we also noted that the Edward III and the Black Prince won in this war, and from there we find the development of political and literary and social events started in England, and this period is significant for a few things. For example, there is victory of Edward III and the Black Prince during the 100 Years' War. There is a social movement in the latter part of this age. During the reign of Richard II, we find that there is a movement started in the society. This movement is largely the outcome of the exploitation of poor people, because most of the society was divided into idle wealthy classes and poor peasants, and these peasants were overtaxed by the government, and the people who belong to the upper strata, who belong to the rich strata of the society, just they were merrymaking, and this also has been the part of this historical period. Friends, besides these two significant events in this period, we find that this period also saw the development of the political and literary activities in the period. We also find that there is the development of travel, there is the development of business, there is the development of some industrial kind of things in the period, and hence this situation supported, or this situation led to the development of literature. So this is the historical background of the period. Now friends, let's talk about Geoffrey Chaucer and his literary works, or his poem. Geoffrey Chaucer is an important figure in the history of English literature, because according to some critics, he is the morning star of English literature, or he is the rising star of English literature. He is aptly called for his masterpiece Canterbury Tales. We have some pieces of information about his biography. For example, he was born and brought up in London. He was a politician, he was a businessman, his father was a merchant of the wine, his family was a well settled. So here we have a profound remark of William J. Long. Let's read this remark and understand the very person, or the very poet Geoffrey Chaucer. Above all, there is Chaucer, scholar, traveller, businessman, courtier, sharing in all the stirring life of his times and reflecting it in literature as no other but Shakespeare has ever done. So through this remark, we understand he was not only a poet, but he played many roles in his lifetime. For example, we find that he visited Italy, he went there on a diplomatic mission. He also went on the expedition during the 100 Years' War with Edward the Third King, and he had experience of chivalry and medieval pageantry. So we can say that his life was full of experiences in the society, and he was also a political figure, because in 1387 he was elected a member of parliament from the Kent county, and his membership as a parliament proved a very significant experience in his life, and he established from there the political affiliations, and he became a significant figure in the politics of the period. He died in 1400, and he was the first poet who was buried at Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. In the last tutorial, we talked about Westminster Abbey. This Westminster Abbey has a special significance in the English literature. So this is the background of Geoffrey Chaucer. Now friends, let's have a look at his literary work he composed during the period. Now generally his literary works have been divided into three sections or into three parts. For example, we have first part, that is French section or French part, then we have Italian part or Italian section, and at the last we have English section. So let's first talk about the French part. The French part is related or consists of his life of 30 years. The first 30 years are considered as the French part of his life, and he composed many poems in this part. So here we have some important poems in this section. The first poem, Romaunt of the Rose, it is a translation of French poem called Romance de la Rose. In this poem, allegorical persons are used. For example, we have the persons named love, hate, envy, jealousy, etc. Second poem, we have Death of Blanche the Duchess, or simply it is also called as Book of the Duchess. It is a dramatic and emotional poem. Third poem, we have Complaint to Pity. It is a long poem. The fourth poem, we have ABC. It is a prayer to the Virgin. And the last poem in this section, we have Complaint of Mars. So these five poems are important in the French section of his life. The second section, we have Italian part. So Italian part consists of next 15 years of his life, and in this part he composed number 1, Travails and Chrysate. It has 8,000 lines. It is his best narrative work. Second, House of Fame. It is an incomplete poem written in octosyllabic couplet. He borrowed the material for his poems from Dante, Ovid and Virgil, but the treatment and workmanship is of his own. The third poem, we have Legend of Good Women. He wanted to write this poem in 19 tales. There are tales in this poem, and he wanted to compose 19 tales in this poem, but he could complete only 8, and 9th tale is began, but it is not complete, it is incomplete. And among these 9 tales, we have Thisbe, the best. Then the fourth poem, we have Annelida and Archive. Fifth, the Parliament of Fools. The third period of his writing, we have English period, and this English period generally consists of last 15 years of his life. And in this English period, we find that he composed his masterpiece in this period, Canterbury Tales. Now let's know about Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales is composed in the English period of his life. So let's have a look at the plan of this Canterbury Tales. If you look at Canterbury Tales, or if you read Canterbury Tales, you have a mention of Tabard Inn. It is a very important inn in the English literature, as we found that Westminster Abbey is important. In the same way, we have Tabard Inn, which is described in this Canterbury Tales. And in Canterbury Tales, we find that some people gather in this Tabard Inn, and the host of Tabard Inn requests all the people. Actually, there are 32 people who gathered for the journey or for the pilgrimage to St. Thomas to Canterbury, and the host of this Tabard Inn requests all these persons to tell 4 stories or 4 tales, to going and to returning. And the original plan of Chaucer was to compose 128 poems in the Canterbury Tales, but only he could complete 24 tales in the Canterbury Tales. So we have these tales of varied kinds, and we find the descriptions of English people from all strata, from every strata of the society in Canterbury Tales, and hence Canterbury Tales becomes a significant work in the English literature. Again, we have a remark of William J. Long regarding Canterbury Tales. Let's read it and understand. Incomplete as they are, they cover a wide range including stories of love, chivalry, of saints and legends, travels, adventures, animal fables, allegory, satires, and the coarse humor of the common people. Though all but 2 are written in verse and around in exquisite poetical touches, They are stories as well as poems, and Chaucer is to be regarded as our first storyteller as well as our first modern poet. Friends, this is a comprehensive opinion about Canterbury Tales. Now, Canterbury Tales is not the collection of poems or short tales, but it covers a variety of topics in it, a wide range of topics, right from chivalry to medieval peasantry and the life of people in the England, because the persons who are telling these stories belong to different stratas of the society. And here W.J. Long considers Geoffrey Chaucer as the first storyteller in the English literature, because there are two tales or two stories which are in narrative form, and from there we find the narration or the storytelling started and the form short stories developed. So the credit should be given to Geoffrey Chaucer. Friends, actually it is very difficult to cover the whole theme and analysis of Canterbury Tales in a single tutorial. There need many tutorials, but this is a general and basic information about Canterbury Tales. Now friends, in the same period or English period, we have two another poems he composed. First is The Lack of Steadfastness, and second is Complaint of Chaucer to His Empty Purse. So this is the English period. Now friends, let's move to the third part of our tutorial, that is Contemporaries of Chaucer. Now as we saw that Chaucer is an important literary figure in this period, in the same way we also have some other important figures in this period. First we have William Langland or Langley. Actually we do not know about his date of birth and the death. The dates are not confirmed, but he composed a very significant work called Piers Plowman in 1362, and it has three parts: A part, B part and C part. In the A part we find that there are 2500 lines, and this is originally composed by William Langland. In the B part we have 7200 lines, and in the C part of Piers Plowman we have 7300 lines. So part C and B is composed by or modified by other poets. So this contribution of Piers Plowman is significant because we find the description of the social strata of the period or the society in the period. We find that he talks about the sloths and vices of church. He talks about the exploitation of peasants. He talks about the exploitation of poor persons in the society, and he also indicates the dissatisfaction in the society, and hence this work Piers Plowman becomes significant. The second figure or second contemporary poet we have John Gower, and he composed Speculum Meditantis. It is in French, Vox Clamantis it is in Latin, and Confessio Amantis it is written in English. This is an allegorical poem which has allegorical setting. It is based on the 7 deadly sins, and it is generally in the form of anecdotes. The next contemporary figure we have John Wycliffe. So John Wycliffe is considered a very significant and has a political influence on the period. We find that he is famous for his controversial and revolutionary opinions. Sometimes he becomes a controversial figure in the English politics, but he is a powerful figure in the field of literature also, because he translated the Bible, and he formed a great influence on the literary prose of the period and latter period, and also on the life of English people, and hence some critics call him as the father of English prose. We also saw that some critics call King Alfred as the father of English prose. In the same way, we also have opinions of some critics regarding John Wycliffe as the father of English prose. Now friends, we have last important contemporary of Chaucer, John Mandeville, and he composed the Voyage and Travails of John Mandeville. But friends, there is argument among critics and scholars that the real author of this work, the Voyage of John Mandeville, is not Mandeville but someone other. But there are many who also consider that this is composed by John Mandeville, because the references of the author called Mandeville are there in the very work, and this work is based on the travel and journey of the poet, and this has given the new vistas in English literature. It is a voyage writing, a travel writing or we can say in modern term it's a travelogue. So these are some contemporaries of Geoffrey Chaucer. Now friends, let's discuss the last part of this video, that is chronological table, the chronology of historical events and the literary events. So I will read it. Please understand this carefully. In history, 1327 Edward III, 1338 beginning of 100 years war with France, 1347 capture of Calais, 1348 to 1349 Black Death, 1373 Winchester College first great public school, 1377 Richard II, Wycliffe and the Lollards begin reformation in England, 1381 Peasant Rebellion, Wat Tyler, 1399 Deposition of Richard II, Henry IV chosen by Parliament. And in literature we have events: 1340 Birth of Chaucer, 1356 Mandeville's Travails, 1359 Chaucer in French War, 1360 to 1370 Chaucer's early French period, 1370 to 1385 Chaucer's middle or Italian period, 1362 to 1395 Piers Plowman, 1385 to 1400 Canterbury Tales, 1382 first complete Bible in English. And the credit of this translation should be given to John Wycliffe. He for the first time translated complete Bible into English. 1400 Death of Chaucer and Dante's Division Commedia, around 1310 to Petrarch's sonnet and poems around 1325 to 1374, and Boccaccio's tales around 1350. So in this period, three Italian authors also are significant: Dante, Petrarch and Boccaccio. So these are the references to these Italian authors. If you find any problem, you can comment me below. I will answer to your comments. So thank you very much for watching the complete tutorial. Please like this video, share this video among your friends and subscribe to Literature Simply, and also don't forget to press the bell notification icon for updates.